Gauteng, they came. Politicians, delegates, and citizens of Africa's richest province. This was the State of the Province address at Garangua, north of Pretoria, on February 25th. The speech, delivered in difficult times. For many, the economy is not growing fast enough, while international markets are diving. Now, maybe more so than ever before, people look up to their leaders for words of hope. This was the task of Gauteng Premier David Makhura as he moved to center stage. His plans for economic growth, infrastructure, and how to ease unemployment.
Honorable members, this year's State of the Province address is more than a speech. Today, we are unveiling a plan of action. Today, we are unveiling Growing Gauteng Together, a plan of action not just for 5 years, but a plan of action for this decade. This is what we are unveiling today. You will all live here with this plan of action. And this plan of action that we are unveiling today is about outlining a trajectory of radical socio-economic transformation and the pathways from where we are today, poverty, unemployment, and inequality, with the signposts of building a society based on social solidarity. So Growing Gauteng Together is about realizing a truly non-racial society, a non-sexist society that embraces not just equality in law, but substantive equality in the way our people live, regardless of race, class, gender, religion, or origin. Our plan of action is about building a society based on human solidarity where no one is left out and no one is left behind.
Before the Premier outlined this Growing Gauteng Together 2030 action plan, the economic blueprint, the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection had compiled and published a report in 2019 titled Indlulamiti Scenarios. The report describes 3 possible scenarios for the nation's future. The first, the Gwara Gwara, is the worst-case scenario. Then the bourgeois scenario describes the current living situation in the province. And lastly, Naile Walk scenario, the best-case scenario.
So, honorable members, we want to be in the scenario where things are getting better. Naile Walk. So what are we going to do to get there? We believe that most of the policy interventions that have been announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa and what we are going to outline today in our plan of action can take our nation and our province closer to this best-case scenario, provided we implement all these measures and interventions with a great deal of urgency, a great deal of consistency, and a great deal of discipline. So Growing Gauteng Together is inspired by the desire to turn our country around, to avoid our country descending into chaos and anarchy where things are getting worse. But Growing Gauteng Together is also about moving our country where we are now. We don't want a mixture of progress. We don't want to take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. So Growing Gauteng Together is about turning around our country and not just offering a flicker of hope, which is followed by some despair, but offering real, meaningful change, and this must be done in our lifetime. Accordingly, we have outlined priorities as a follow-up to what we have announced in July last year. These priorities include the following: that the priority focusing on the economy, jobs, and infrastructure; the priority focusing on education, skills, and healthcare; focusing on sustainable human settlements, new cities, and rapid land release; focusing on community safety, social cohesion, and food security, focusing on sustainable future for all, building a capable, ethical, and developmental state, and lastly, consciously being part of building a better Africa and a better world. Our first and foremost goal in the economy is to grow our economy in order to massively increase the number of new jobs created in our economy. And at the same time, we must sustain and preserve existing jobs. So our number one goal is about jobs with regard to the economy. We will achieve this goal by focusing on what we call 10 high growth sectors of the economy in Gauteng. By focusing on specific industries that have greater potential to create more jobs, and these industries are located in specific corridors of our province. We are now ready, after doing our work in partnership with various sectors of industry, we are ready to take action and in the next 5 years to deal with these issues sector by sector.
So what are these high growth rate sectors? According to the Premier, these sectors that have the potential to spur economic growth and create new jobs include energy, transportation, logistics, ICT, agribusiness, and infrastructure investments. However, there is one more sector which governments around the world are focusing on, which may surprise some.
There is a new sector of our economy which any country that forgets about it will be left behind. That is the cannabis industry. We in Gauteng will focus on the industrialization and agro-processing of the cannabis industry. And unlocking the cannabis industry, especially for use for medicinal purposes and many other areas such as healthcare, including skin care.
Premier Makhura added that to unlock the potential of these sectors, better coordination is needed between provincial and national departments. Special economic zones in different corridors was another hot topic. The amount of jobs they had created and how many were in the pipeline. Speaking to CNBC Africa, the MEC for Economic Infrastructure in the province, Tasneem Motara, discussed the allocation of funds, the inner workings of special economic zones, and the working relationship with national government.
National infrastructure, like bulk services especially, works together with the municipalities. We're at the center of coordinating those. So the Premier would have spoken about SEZs as an example. So those bring together national, provincial and municipalities. We really, as a province, play a supportive role and do a lot of compliance. So red tape would be our responsibility. I think for us, importantly, is to be able to be on top of the projects, especially mega projects that bring everybody together, and make sure that our coordinating forums, as well as regular update meetings take place and that we track where we are.
Two things. You mentioned SEZ. Some might say with the spate of retrenchment that we're facing in the country, that these things are not being promulgated as fast enough to counter the job losses that we're seeing. I mean, it's essentially SEZ versus Section 189.
Yes. Well, we've now developed a model, especially in Gauteng, but that can be used across the country, for how an SEZ can go from start to finish, from beginning to end in a very short space of time. So it brings all regulating bodies together. I spoke about red tape, just to be able to, between the province, national and municipalities, to secure all of that in a very short space.
How are we cutting that red tape?
For instance, so the Premier does speak about EIAs as an example. So it used to take 3 years, it takes 45 days just to get municipal adjudications, municipal approvals as well. We're finding ways of just cutting down, just getting people in the same room that deal with one project at once is one way of doing it.
I want to talk to you about a couple of things. We touched briefly on the bulk infrastructure, and something like the Lanseria megacity project, for instance, requires that. And it's probably the biggest project that you'll undertake in your administration. What's the sense of speed on that?
So there's two things there. One, the municipality has got capacity to be able to put in bulk infrastructure. However, there's a second element to that where the private sector brings in their funding and they get concessions or rebates when they bring in their own funding for bulk infrastructure. So we're looking at both options, but the municipality is rolling out infrastructure there.
The Premier spoke to the number of jobs that has already been created by the Special Economic Zone of Tshwane, in Tshwane, and the relationship we have with BMW and Nissan. Those are our main job creators now. But you must remember that the Tshwane automotive hub in the Special Economic Zone, it's in the first phase. The second phase will be focusing at SMMEs, and in those we'll be creating more than 25,000 jobs. And I think that will be launched, or it will be started towards the end of the year this year. The economic zone in Ekurhuleni in the eastern side is already creating it has already created more than 25,000 jobs already. So it's the biggest economic hub that is working. He spoke about the new city that's going to be developed in the West Rand. That's another special economic zone that's going to create another more than 25,000 jobs. So you're asking about speed, will they create jobs? Yes, they are. But we also have agro-processing in those areas. Agro-processing has been proven to be the whole value chain to have a possibility of creating more than 25,000 jobs. 25,000 is our benchmark. We look around it because we have made our research in terms of the jobs that we can create. So yes, we are confident that it will create jobs.
In addition to these 3+1 special economic zones, we will have 15 industrial parks that are revitalized in the different corridors, 12 agri-parks for agro-processing, and 5 agro-processing facilities in all these 5 corridors in Gauteng. Honorable members, the single industrial ecosystem will also bring in township SMMEs into the major sectors of the economy. By 2030, Gauteng will also have the biggest inland hub and dry port in our continent. This is the Transnet Tambo Springs Logistics Highway in Ekurhuleni. This is going to be the biggest logistics hub in the continent. Tambo Springs adds to the many other aspects of our globally competitive industrial infrastructure, which is going to give the Gauteng economy a major boost as we enter the period of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Globally competitive infrastructure and logistics capabilities will help unleash the 10 high-growth sectors in our economy.
Premier Makhura further announced that the province would spend 60 billion rands in the next 5 years on building and maintaining infrastructure. This means that these funds would have to be available before they are allocated towards those projects. With vague updates on his previous State of the Province address, the Premier did follow up about the Township Economic Development Bill to be tabled at the provincial legislature in June this year, a law that will nullify all bylaws that make it difficult for township businesses to operate. This bylaw will help grow the township economy to create jobs and wealth creation, according to Makhura. He added that the province would now spend 4 billion rands a year on goods and services from 2,000 township enterprises. And this was not all.
We intend to increase exports to the continent by 15% by the end of 2025. In 2030, inter-Africa trade should contribute to the creation and maintenance of 150,000 jobs in the Gauteng economy, an increase from the current 50,000 jobs. As we speak, 50,000 jobs in our economy are a result of inter-Africa trade. We are not doing enough. And in this decade, we want to increase that to 150,000 jobs. We also want to increase exports to major regions in the world by 10% by the end of 2025. A critical success factor in achieving our goals is to ensure the creation of an innovation ecosystem and world-class infrastructure in the Gauteng economy. This we will do by attracting both foreign and direct investment into the special economic zones, the agri-parks and the industrial parks that I've referred to earlier. At the same time, we are working with universities, research institutes and private sector innovation centers to build a more integrated innovation ecosystem that will support the 10 high-growth sectors in the Gauteng economy. Honorable members, the Gauteng government is also supporting researchers in various universities to promote innovation, research and development in various areas of our economy. We do need a state-of-the-art infrastructure network in order to take forward the goals I have referred to. And this infrastructure includes the security of supply of clean water, modern energy, efficient and reliable public transport, connectivity and the logistics infrastructure in our province.
Speaking on public transport, in 2019, MEC for Transport and Road Infrastructure, Jacob Mamabolo, laid out his vision, and others are picking it up. Gauteng is potentially could be taking even more advantage of the transport economy. The Competition Commission has said that Metro Rail must fall under the purview of Gauteng government as part of its devolution process. What does the transport economy mean for you? What opportunities, as the person in charge of economic development, would you like to see entrenched there?
Okay, I think the Premier spoke about the developments that are coming already. He spoke about what is going to happen in the Eastern Economic Zone, Special Economic Zone. But right now we are working together with the MEC for Transport to look at enhancing existing logistics, not only logistics, formalizing the taxi industry, getting the taxi industry also into SMMEs, and to have them develop their businesses as well to make sure that they take advantage of the economy and they create jobs. We must formalize that economy of transport, so that then we not only collect taxes from them. That's not the only intention. The other intention is to formalize jobs that they are creating already. We are not able to quantify those formally because we have not formalized the industry. But after formalizing the industry, I'm sure we'll be able to quantify the amount of jobs that the industry can create.
It's an exciting one because it comes with money, remember? So those are the other things that will boost our revenue in the province, and it will create more jobs for our own, because I like PRASA because if we can get that, remember even manufacturing trains now, which is in Nigel, that plant, it's helping us to ensure that we improve in terms of job creation in the area of the East. So if we can have that now, it will be a bonus. Even the traffic officers that monitors in the trains, you remember then we used to have people that were monitoring the train stations. That's what we will definitely do. So those are the plans that we're having as a province, and they will work in partnership with the Department of Roads and Transport.
The State of the Province address does not only reflect the achievement, but also concerns and challenges, like water security, stating that Gauteng faces a risk and points out that Gautengers use 300 liters of water per person per day. This was way above the world average of just over 100 liters a day. Energy also raises a concern, but the provincial government welcomed President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement that municipalities will be allowed to bring in additional energy generating capacity to the grid from renewable energy, hydropower, and more. The Premier then shifted his attention on additional infrastructure, the building of 6 new hospitals and 100 new schools in a decade, along with more homes.
So, honorable members, let me talk now about the human settlements, new cities, and rapid land release. You do know that there's no doubt that over the past 25 years, we have had unprecedented levels of housing delivery in Gauteng. I will continue to report that in the past 25 years, 1.2 million houses were built in this province through government subsidies. That's public housing. And this has provided decent accommodation to close to 4 million people in our province. However, the scars of apartheid remain evident in the spatial settlements across our cities. Most of the new houses we have built are on the periphery of our cities, away from economic nodes and centers of production. So we have introduced the mega human settlements and the new cities as a way to break with these apartheid spatial patterns. And I've reported already that we have found a new way of harvesting and bringing together funding, both public sector funding and state funding for these developments to take place. I want to come to an important commitment I made in the State of the Province address last year. As part of fast-tracking rapid land release, we will, from April to June, release 10,000 serviced sites in different corridors of Gauteng to those who want to build houses for themselves. We are going to beneficiaries of our rapid land release know where. We are coming to every corridor to make sure that in the first 3 months of this year, 10,000 stands will be released so that people can start to build houses for themselves.
The announcement of these 10,000 service sites was, however, followed by a warning.
Honorable members, I would like to make it loud and clear that we have also adopted the Land Invasion Prevention Strategy We have adopted the Land Invasion Prevention Strategy to deal decisively with the criminal syndicates and political entrepreneurs that are invading land across Gauteng province. We have set aside, in addition, specific resources. We have allocated resources to do two more things. To deal with the upgrading of hostels, which are a sore sight in our province at the moment, and the informal settlements, to upgrade the informal settlement. Now, let me tell you something. If we don't stop the illegal invasion of land, the informal settlements will continue to grow.
A controversial statement, but David Makhura did not stop there with his stern warnings.
So I want to say, those who masquerade as business people in communities, who go and disrupt projects and delay the building of schools and health services, we are coming for you. We are coming for you. We are coming for you. Hundreds of you are already facing charges, criminal charges. We won't allow the disruption of projects in this province. We are going to employ 400 additional traffic police in Gauteng over the next 3 years to enhance the visibility of traffic police on our roads and enhance road safety on our roads. Business people, I want to say to you, if there are business people here doing business with the Gauteng government, this thing called the government price has come to an end now. The government price. Because many business people, you buy bread at 1 rand, you sell it to government at 5 rand. Their service they collude with civil servants to create a false market of government pricing. We are going to eliminate this in all the government tenders this year. We will continue the drive for clean audits in all agencies, and will ensure that we act on the recommendations of the Auditor General of South Africa in improving financial management.
For us to even commit South Africans that we are willing to build almost 100 new schools in the next 10 years, it's a clear commitment that we want education to be accessible to everyone. But also to say we are going to create opportunities for 1 million ECD learners. You'll never match that kind of a commitment. It's a clear demonstration that any child that's going to be born from today, they are short of quality education in our processes. But also they need to fight bullies and fight drugs, especially abuse of alcohol in our schools. That commitment that the Premier is giving us 400 patrollers to come to our schools, high-powered cars, using drones, you'll never get that form of appointment. So to us, this speech was indeed a commitment to enhance education and ensure there's access to education.
This is it was a vision board for the Premier to outline his plans for the next 10 years. He wants to focus on education, skills, health, safety. I think allocation. Where's the money going to come from?
The money is going to come from me. I have their money already. I've already allocated. When I give them the monies on these things, on community safety, I'm going to give them a lot of money. Remember, you was even talking about now integrating the services on community safety. That will be money. The 400 traffic officers, that's money. The 10 per ward officers, not traffic officers now that will be assisting the police in those wards in checking what's happening. That's going to be money because I must even buy uniform for them. And again, we have seen that in every sentence, every department, you are speaking about digitalizing it. So everything that is going to be digitalized is coming from me, and I'm going to give them money.
If all the spheres of government in our province are working together, and if business, labor, civil society and communities are working together, we must refuse to be sidetracked by those who don't want change and those who don't want progress. We must focus on Indulamiti scenario, the best case scenario, naele walk. We will not allow our country and our province to descend into the self-consuming public disorder and social conflict of the Gwara scenario. We refuse to allow our country to descend in that scenario. But we will also ensure that our country does not remain in the current isibujwa scenario, where significant progress exists side by side with morally reprehensible structural inequities and persistent institutional failure, including corruption. The current scenario is bad. We have to change it as well. So how are we going to change all this? By focusing on the 7 priorities and the major interventions we outlined today. I am ready to lead this decade. Team Gauteng is ready. The Gauteng City Region leadership is ready. Let us get down to work. I thank you.